Triple Entente formed in 1907. This was an alliance between Russia, France, and Great Britain. These were all called the Allied Powers. This agreement was formed in 1907 before the war and brought the Triple Entente into existence. The 1914 assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which ignited World War I, occurred in Sarajevo. Sarajevo is the capital of Bosnia. Many countries blamed the Serbian government for the attack. Austria-Hungary and Germany declared war on Serbia, Russia, Belgium, France, and Great Britain. This started the First World War. GAVRILO PRINCIP was part of the Black Hand organization which supported Serbian nationalism. Princip was responsible for shooting Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife in June 1914. This was the turning point in which Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Nationalism is a strong belief that the interests of a particular nation-state are of primary importance. Also, the belief that a people who share a common language, history, and culture should constitute an independent nation free of foreign domination.
Germany was the most involved of the Central Powers and began to participate after the declaration of war against Serbia. The Triple Alliance was between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. This alliance lasted from May 20th, 1882 until World War I in 1914. Imperialism is a system where a powerful nation controls and exploits one or more colonies. Prior to World War I, Britain was the world's dominant imperial power.
The war. June 28, 1914, GAVRILO Princip killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand. July 28, 1914, exactly 1 month after the Archduke was assassinated, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia because the assassin was a nationalist of Serbia. The Marne River, September 5th through the 12th, 1914. The first battle of the Marne River, and the fighters were French in the UK versus the German Empire. May 7th, 1915, the day the Lusitania was sunk by a German U-boat. This changed the American public outlook on the war and made them want to go to war. Sussex Pledge, 1916, a promise given from Germany to America, stated that Germany would not use unrestricted submarine warfare anymore. April 6, 1917. On this day, America enters the war. War Industries Board, a U.S. government agency established to produce war materials. Trench warfare, the type of fighting used in World War I, where the soldiers fought in trenches. They were not always the most sanitary, and many soldiers suffered from headaches, skin sores, and high fevers. Henry Cabot Lodge, best known for his battle with Woodrow Wilson, fighting about foreign policy in the Treaty of Versailles. No Man's Land, placed between the two enemy fronts that belonged to neither side. Troops would go through this and be slaughtered with machine guns and tanks. U-boats, German submarines that attacked many commercial ships in public waters.
The Allied powers consisted of France, British Empire, Russia, Serbia, Montenegro, Belgium, Japan, Italy, Portugal, Romania, Belize, U.S., Greece, and Siam. Alvin York was one of the most decorative U.S. soldiers. He was a Medal of Honor recipient and led an attack on a German machine gun nest and captured 32 machine guns, killed 20 Germans, and captured 132 others. During the war, America stayed neutral until 1917. Also in 1917, Woodrow Wilson set out to find and declare war against Germany that would be made safe for democracy. 4 days later, Congress declared war. Eddie Rickenbacker was a U.S. Army pilot, a Medal of Honor recipient, and had 26 aerial victories. Stalemate. Both sides were stuck in a stalemate, which means neither could advance freely without suffering heavy losses. Political boundaries. Political boundaries were between countries or states that form along
The
physical
beginning
boundaries.
of the post-war era, 1918. The end of World War I fighting. At the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, the Great War ends. At 5 a.m. that morning, Germany, bereft of manpower and supplies and faced with imminent invasion, signed an armistice agreement with the Allies in a railroad car outside Compiègne, France, about 37 miles or 60 kilometers north of Paris. The armistice was designed to end the fighting of World War I, and the terms of it would make it impossible for Germany to restart the war, at least in the short term. Big Four peace talks. After the armistice was issued, the day after British Prime Minister David Lloyd George's arrival in Paris, he meets with representatives from the other Big Four nations, Prime Ministers Georges Clemenceau of France and Vittorio Orlando of Italy, and President Woodrow Wilson of the United States, at the French Foreign Ministry on the Quai d'Orsay, for the first of what would be more than 100 meetings in 1919. Victors of the Great War, the leaders of these four nations were determined to control the agenda of the conference that would decide its peace terms. This was called the Paris Peace Conference. The Treaty of Versailles, June 28, 1919. Following the Big Four peace talks in Paris from January to June 1919, the conclusion was made on the peace agreements and the meeting was held. The Great War officially ended with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles on June 28, 1919. Negotiated among the Allied powers with little participation by Germany, its 15 parts and 440 articles reassigned German boundaries and assigned liability for reparations. These punitive terms forced upon Germany destabilized Europe and laid the groundwork for World War II. The 14 points. In a January 8, 1918 speech on war aims and peace terms to the United States Congress by President Woodrow Wilson, he announced these 14 points. This was a statement of principles for world peace that was used for peace negotiations after World War I. These were intended to generate support for Wilson's vision of the post-war world, both at home and also among allies in Europe. The League of Nations. The League of Nations was an international organization founded on January 10, 1920, and headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, as a result of the Paris Peace Conference that ended the First World War. Its principal mission was to maintain world peace and resolve international disputes. Though first proposed by President Woodrow Wilson as part of his 14 points plan for an equitable peace in Europe, the United States never became a member